ever scrolled through an atheist podcast's comment section and just blinked? Like, did someone get lost on the way to their online Bible study and accidentally stumble into a fact-based discussion? Because let me tell you, my YouTube channel's comments section often looks like a spiritual car crash, where well-meaning, or not so well-meaning, Christians crash their theological rickshaws into our sleek, logical superhighway. They roll in, scriptures blazing, fingers ready to type out threats of eternal damnation, all while completely missing the point that we, the exchristians, the atheists, the skeptics, the deconstructors, already did that. We've read the book, we've worn the t-shirt, we've even got the spiritual trauma to prove it. And today, friends, we are not just observing the wreckage, we're grabbing our popcorn, pulling up a comfy chair, and dissecting the magnificent, often embarrassing spectacle that is the Christian internet troll. What makes them tick? Why do they even bother? And why, oh why, do they keep trying to convert us when we're clearly just here to laugh at their attempts? Stay tuned, because we're diving deep into the psychology of the pious pest, and trust me, it's going to be a riot. I'm your host, Toothless Grin Kim, and welcome to Secular Strike Back, formerly known as the Kim McPhail Podcast. So, as you all know, if you've been a long-time subscriber to this channel, or if you just hang out on any atheist podcast on YouTube or elsewhere for more than 5 minutes, you'll have encountered them in the bustling digital arena where ideas clash and communities converge. Figures known as internet trolls often emerge, delighting in sparking outrage or pushing hidden agendas. But among them, a unique archetype surfaces: the Christian troll. Now, their mission, bless their cotton socks, transcends mere mischief. No, they're not just here for their lulz, not entirely. They aim to rally fellow believers, reinforce a specific worldview, and subtly, or not so subtly, undermine genuine engagement. I deal with Christian internet trolls quite regularly on my atheist podcast channel, as you know. The truly hateful comments YouTube sends straight to my held folder for me to view later. You know, the ones that make you wonder if they accidentally typed Lord's Prayer instead of hate speech, because they just seem to be in completely the wrong spirit. But it's the subtle type of hate, the proselytizing, the gaslighting, the projecting that often gets left in the YouTube comments, that I often leave in the YouTube comments just for us ex-Christians and atheists to laugh at. And boy, do we ever have some fun. And as you also know, many have made comments off topic pertaining to my looks, my tone, all in an attempt to distract from the real topic being discussed, to try to make me feel embarrassed or distressed in some way, so I will shut up and not speak out on the damages of their Christian false belief system. But I didn't come this far just to shut up because some rondo on the internet criticized my lack of a full set of teeth. Please. I have often spoken on my atheist podcast channel about these Christian trolls hanging out in atheist podcast comment sections right here on YouTube. And my most recent videos pertaining to the tactics used by Christians, although I've done several videos on it, I'm listing my most 2 recent ones. pertaining to the tactics used by Christians in the comment section and used by Christians everywhere and in everyday life were pertaining to judgmental Christians who project, gaslight, criticize, and proselytize. And just yesterday, in fact, we specifically dove into the sheer audacity and utter futility of Christian proselytizing in our comment sections. And before that, we had a grand old time dissecting the hypocrisy of judgmental Christians, especially when their beloved Jesus himself, in the Sermon on the Mount, literally told them not to judge. I mean, come on. You'd think they'd read their own texts once in a while, right? Apparently, it's just a suggestion, like love thy neighbor or don't covet your neighbor's ox. I have several videos, as I've just mentioned, pertaining to Christian manipulation and fear tactics that they use, which I'm thrilled to report fail every single time. Their tactics fail every single time and end in me just laughing at them. Because what else can you do? I speak up on my podcast about the damages of religion on people and society. And I bring facts, reason, and logic to the table. And instead of Christians giving any verifiable, real evidence for their claims, which, spoiler alert, they can't, they resort to proselytizing, projecting, gaslighting, criticizing, using fear tactics, and just trying to manipulate others into either conforming, converting, or just plain shutting up. And guess what? I haven't shut up. Not even a little. So in today's podcast, we are digging deeper into the Christian internet trolling on atheist podcast channels. Here on YouTube, many of you atheists who hang on other atheist podcast channels are also aware of these trolls. I hang out on my section of the internet. I don't go onto the Christian channels and troll the ignorant followers of Christianity and spew as much hate as possible. Frankly, I have better things to do, like contemplate the vastness of the cosmos, or re-watch a comedy series on TV I've seen several times before. But they do come here and invade my comment section. So let's talk more about what a Christian internet troll is. Let's call them out for who they are when we see them, and report them to YouTube if you feel you are actually being harassed by a troll. Identifying these particular digital disruptors is an act of self-preservation in the online sphere. They are masters of diversion, peppering conversations with irrelevant comments and veiled passive aggression, often refusing rational discourse even when their arguments crumble like cheap communion wafers. Watch for their telltale maneuvers. Flaming is a discussion with heated rhetoric, and subtly, concern trolling by feigning empathy to be able to sow discord, or relentlessly sea lioning with endless, disingenuous questions. Recognizing these patterns empowers you to safeguard your valuable time, protect your emotional well-being, and preserve the sanctity of respectful online environments. Because honestly, our time is too precious to spend debating whether a talking snake is biologically feasible. And often found lurking in atheist online spaces, these Christian trolls are driven by a perceived divine mandate to witness or evangelize. It's like they've been given a holy quest, but instead of slaying dragons, they're just annoying people in YouTube comments. They might deploy complex theological riddles to stump the atheist, which again we usually deconstructed back in Sunday school. Or they passionately defend their faith against perceived slights. All the while, their true intent might be pure provocation rather than dialogue. Their behaviors paint a clear picture. They wield religious judgment like a weapon, threatening others with hellfire or twisting scripture out of context, which they often claim that we do. Projection is strong among them. You'll encounter their judgmental, hypocritical, and often mean-spirited pronouncements delivered with an air of self-righteousness and angry sarcasm and a narrow view of faith that suggests their God is a cosmic hall monitor. Beyond their specific motivations, they share universal troll traits. Off-topic remarks designed to derail, condescending jabs, and a knack for stoking frustration before retreating dismissively. They flood comments and messages with hurtful insults, often to provoke a reaction. It's a grand spectacle of digital disruption. So let's break down their strategy, their tactics, their baffling attitudes, and what in the name of all that is scientifically verifiable they hope to get out of it. At the core of the Christian troll's strategy is this deeply ingrained belief that they are doing God's work. They generally believe they are saving souls, even if those souls are explicitly telling them, "No, thank you, I've already been saved, and then unsaved myself, and then saved my own self from you. And now I'm perfectly happy." They see our atheist channels not as spaces for reasoned discussion, but as a digital mission field, ripe for conversion. It's like a spiritual ambulance chasing, but instead of an accident, it's just someone saying, "I don't believe in ambulances." The irony, the sheer beautiful irony, is that by coming here and acting like judgmental, proselytizing jerks, they often push people further away from religion, reinforcing every negative stereotype we already had. So in a twisted way, they're actually helping our cause. Thanks, guys. Keep up the terrible anti-evangelism. So here are a few of their tactics. First, we talk about proselytizing, which is, as we discussed yesterday, this is their bread and butter. They drop copy-pasted scriptures often out of context, or simply ask, "Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior?" In a comment section discussing, say, the historical inaccuracies of the Exodus narrative. It's like walking into a vegan restaurant and asking everyone if they've tried bacon. The desperation is palpable. They're casting nets into a pool that's clearly labeled, "No fishing." And then they're shocked when they pull up nothing but a rusty old boot, which, in this analogy, is usually my sarcastic reply. This isn't witnessing, it's digital littering. Next on the list of tactics is projecting. Oh, this is a classic. They accuse us of being angry, hateful, bitter, hurt, or lost. Meanwhile, they are the ones spewing thinly veiled condemnations and warnings of hellfire. It's a textbook psychological defense mechanism. They can't deal with their own doubts or discomfort with our lack of belief, so they externalize it onto us. For instance, they will say, "You're just angry at God." They type while their caps lock key screams their own barely contained rage. No, darling, we're just pointing out that your holy book has plot holes bigger than the Red Sea after it totally didn't part. And we're doing it with a smile. And the next tactic, which I often discuss, is gaslighting. This one is particularly insidious for ex-Christians. Christians will invalidate your entire lived experience by saying things like, "You never truly knew God," or "If you were a real Christian, you wouldn't question." It's an attempt to make you doubt your own memories, your own journey, your own emotional reality. They try to rewrite your past to fit their narrative, making you question if you were ever in the club. We were real Christians. That's why we're ex-Christians. We tried it. We tested it. And we found it wanting. So the next tactic we're talking about that Christians often use is the criticizing, otherwise known as the ad hominem attacks. Remember when I mentioned comments about my looks? Remember when I mentioned that in previous videos, which I have to do every so often? This is a prime example. When they can't debate the actual points, say the lack of archaeological evidence for the conquest of Canaan, they pivot. They say, "You look frustrated," or "You need to open your heart and let Jesus in." Or, here's a big one I often hear, which usually ends up in my help folders, so you never see it. "Why don't you wear false teeth? I can't concentrate with you looking like that." It's a juvenile attempt to undermine your credibility and confidence by attacking something utterly irrelevant. It's the intellectual equivalent of a child sticking their fingers in their ears and yelling, "La, la, la, I can't hear you." It's particularly pathetic coming from people who claim to follow a savior who preached about not judging others. As we discussed in that video about judgmental Christians, it seems Jesus' Sermon on the Mount went in one ear and out the other, right past their judgmental little brains. Little brains. Another tactic they use is the fear tactics. A Christian will often say, "You're going to hell. Repent or perish." These are the theological equivalent of shouting boo in a dark room. To someone who no longer believes, it's cute. It's a sad, desperate attempt to invoke a primal fear that we've long since shed. We're not afraid of your imaginary boogeyman, folks. We're more concerned about climate change and the rising cost of groceries. This tactic just shows how little they understand about people who have rationally deconstructed their faith. They're trying to sell us a cure for a disease that we don't have. And another tactic Christians use is the diversion and derailment tactic. And this encompasses the blaming, the concern trolling, and the sea lioning tactics. And when I mention flaming, I mean this is just spewing heated rhetoric, insults, and aggressive language. Pure rage bait. The concern trolling, for example, "I'm just so concerned for your soul," they'll type, feigning empathy while clearly trying to sow discord or imply you're misguided. They'll say, "It's just so sad you've lost your way." Meanwhile, I'm over here thriving and feeling more authentic than ever. Don't worry about my soul. Worry about your argument. When I talk to sea lioning, this is my personal favorite to observe. They'll demand endless evidence or explanation for things they could easily Google, or for concepts that have been thoroughly debated for centuries. But how do you explain the existence of trees? You know that phrase, just look at the trees. And Christians keep asking disingenuous questions, pretending to be open to discussion, but never actually engaging with your answers. It's a relentless, badgering tactic designed to exhaust you and make you give up. It's like arguing with a toddler who keeps asking why after every answer, not because they generally want to know, but because they're enjoying the attention. Let's talk about the complex theological riddles. The stump the atheist edition. Christians often try to stump the atheist, and they can't. We know more than they do. Christians will say, if God created everything, who created God? Well, wait a minute. No. That's our question for them. If God created everything, who created God? And they often just claim he always existed, which is just a cop-out. They often come in with these grand theological pronouncements or questions that they think are unanswerable, forgetting that we've often been grappling with these very questions for years, long before they even thought to type them. They truly believe they're presenting intellectual challenges, but to us, it's often like someone asking, but if the earth is round, why don't people fall off? It just shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the topic. Christians' attitudes are generally a mix of self-righteousness, perceived moral superiority, condescension, and a thinly veiled anger or sarcasm that betrays their true frustration. They generally believe they're doing something virtuous. What do they hope to get out of it? To save lost souls? So this is the big one. To save lost souls. This is the big one. Delusional, yes, but sincerely believed. They think their comment, no matter how nonsensical, might be the one to plant a seed. To silence the critics, if they can rattle us, distract us, or make us angry enough to lash out, they consider it a win. They want us to shut up about the damages of their belief system. They also do it to feel good about themselves. For instance, they'll think, I bought the good bite. And patting themselves on the back for witnessing to the godless heathens. It's a dopamine hit of righteousness. And they also troll to rally other Christians. Sometimes their comments are less for us and more for other lurking Christians. It's a way to signal their piety and reinforce their group identity. It's like they're saying, see, I'm brave enough to tell these atheists they're wrong. They also troll to generate outrage and chaos. Some are just standard trolls who enjoy the drama. The Christian veneer just gives them a convenient excuse for their disruptive behavior. They also do it to try to prove atheism is wrong, though they fail every time. They do it to prove atheism is wrong, even without evidence. They try to cast doubt, create confusion, and make our discussions seem less credible by flooding them with nonsense. And they also try to distract us from the real damages. They absolutely hate it when we discuss the very real harm that Christianity and religion in general inflicts on individuals, families, and society. So they come here to derail the conversation. Our mission is to be lapping all the way to reason. So here's the motivational core, my friends, and it's why these trolls ultimately fail. You atheists, ex-Christians, deconstructors, skeptics, etc., etc., etc. You have the power to rise above this noise. Arm yourself with this understanding. Recognize the inflammatory comments, the distracting irrelevance, the repetitive disruptions, and the personal attacks for what they truly are. Attempts to steal your peace and derail meaningful conversation. Instead of engaging on their terms, choose discernment. This is precisely why they're here, isn't it? We, the ex-Christians, the atheists, the skeptics, the deconstructors, we are here for facts, for reason, for critical thinking. We are here to speak truth to power and speak out about the falsehoods and the very real damages that Christianity does. We bring facts, reason, and logic to the table. And guess what? Their emotional appeals, Christians' emotional appeals, they're baseless threats. They're tired old arguments. They just bounce off us. We've heard it all before. We've been there. We've come out on the other side, and frankly, it's pretty great over here. Their tactics, as I've repeatedly pointed out in multiple videos in the past, just fail. Every single time. We're not easily manipulated. We're not easily scared. And we're definitely not shutting up. We just end up laughing at them. Because what else can you do when someone threatens you with an eternal campfire for not believing any magical invisible friend? It's absurd. Foster communities built on mutual respect and genuine dialogue. Let your online presence be a beacon of thoughtful interaction, untroubled by the shadows of digital discord. And as ex-Christians and atheists, we must continue to speak facts over faith, truth over myth, logic over superstition. We must continue speaking truth to power and speaking out about the damages religion, and especially that of Christianity, causes people and society, and even the individuals themselves who are within Christianity, and even the damages done to their own family members, all for a belief in a myth. We're not here to hate on individual believers, but we are absolutely here to critically examine and dismantle the belief system itself, because its effects are far-reaching and often devastating. When they come into our spaces, projecting their fear and insecurity, trying to silence us with unchristian judgment or desperate proselytizing, they only highlight the very problems of their faith that we are trying to expose. So every time they do this, every time Christians do these things to us, they just prove our point. So every time they resort to these tired, ineffective methods, they show the intellectual bankruptcy of their position. And every time we get to laugh, bring the facts, and demonstrate the power of reason, even in the face of such relentless, illogical devotion. All right, my incredible community of freethinkers and reality embracers, I want to hear from you. What's the most ridiculous, most hilarious, or most utterly baffling comment you've ever received from a Christian troll in an atheist space? Share your stories and observations down in the comments below. Let's create a collection of these absurd encounters, shall we? You know I love reading them. In conclusion, identifying these Christian internet trolls isn't about giving them power. It's about taking our power back. It's about recognizing they're often desperate, sometimes hilarious, and always ultimately futile tactics for what they are. Attempts to steal our peace, derail meaningful conversation and silence truth. But we won't be silenced. We will continue to be a beacon of thoughtful interaction, grounded in reality, untroubled by the shadows of digital discord. So keep speaking out. Keep questioning, keep laughing, and keep sharing your experiences. If you found this discussion insightful or just had a good chuckle, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone who needs a good laugh and a dose of reality. Together, we can continue to shine a light on truth, foster critical thinking, and build a world where facts triumph over faith and reason over rhetoric. And if you really enjoy my podcast and you'd like to support it, please consider making a $3 monthly donation by going to my Patreon and becoming a member. The link is in the description below. And again, this is Toothless Grin Kim at the Secular Strike Back. And thanks for watching, for listening, and for being such an incredible part of the community. Stay skeptical, stay rational, and I'll catch you in the next video.